When I got home today, I was surprised to find my wife waiting for me with a homemade dinner. She had a big smile on her face and seemed genuinely excited to show me what she had prepared. I wasn't expecting it at all. It really caught me off guard, but in a good way. Lately, things have felt a bit off between us. For the past few weeks, I've been feeling somewhat ignored or left out. My wife hasn't really been spending much time with me, and I was starting to feel a little lonely. Just to give a bit of background, my wife is a homemaker. When we first met, she used to work as a baker. She was really talented and passionate about it, but the job was extremely stressful and demanding. After we got married, she decided to leave that line of work so she could focus on our home and hopefully live a more peaceful life. These days, she doesn't bake full-time anymore, but every now and then she'll bake cakes for people in the neighborhood, usually for birthdays, small gatherings. Right now, I'm the main provider in our household. I have a stable, well-paying job which allows us to live comfortably. All our finances are shared. We have a joint bank account and everything we earn or spend comes from the same pool. Before I even met my wife, I had already bought the house we live in. So when we got married, she moved in with me and we've been living here ever since. Throughout the years we've been married, I've often encouraged her to consider finding a job, even if it was something part-time or flexible. I wasn't trying to push her into anything, but I thought it might be good for her to have something outside of the house, maybe a chance to meet new people, explore her interests, or just bring in a little extra income. But every time we talked about it, she made it clear that she really enjoys being a stay-at-home wife. She told me it gives her a sense of peace and comfort and that she feels more in control of her time that way. So in the end, I respected her choice and didn't push the matter any further. I just wanted her to be happy. Just to be completely clear, my wife and I don't have any children. We've never planned to have any. From the very beginning of our relationship, this was something we were both upfront and honest about. When we first started dating, my wife told me that she was on birth control because she never wanted to get pregnant. She was very clear that motherhood wasn't something she saw for herself and she didn't want to go down that road. I respected her honesty. I told her I felt the same way. I've never really had the desire to have kids either, so it was something we agreed on without any debate or hesitation. In fact, this is probably one of the few things we've always seen eye to eye on. There's never been any confusion or change of heart about it. It's just a part of who we are as a couple. Luckily for me, I had a vasectomy done several years ago, even before I met my wife. It was a personal choice I made on my own, long before our relationship began. I've never really talked about it with her in detail because it didn't seem necessary. The only thing I've ever told her is that I will never be able to make her pregnant. She has never asked me to explain more, and I haven't felt the need to bring it up. At the beginning of this year, my brother came to live with us. His ex-wife had kicked him out after she found out he was cheating on her. What made it even worse was that he was cheating with a 21-year-old girl. Honestly, it was really disappointing and kind of gross to hear about, and I told my brother how foolish and selfish I thought he was for doing something like that. To be fair, he wasn't a very good partner even before this happened. His ex-wife would often tell me how upset she was because my brother didn't help her around the house and didn't have a steady job. She basically supported him financially and emotionally, but he still chose to betray her trust by cheating. At first, I wasn't sure I wanted to help him by letting him move in with us. I felt conflicted because of everything he had done. But he begged me, saying he had nowhere else to go. His ex-wife didn't want him living in their house anymore, especially since they were in the middle of a divorce. My parents also encouraged me to help out my brother, so after thinking about it, I decided to give him a chance, even though I was still upset with him. My wife didn't seem to have a big problem with the idea of my brother moving in. She seemed kind of okay with it when I first brought it up. So since then, my brother's been living with both of us in our home. At first, I thought it would just be for a short time while he figured things out. But as the months went by, I started to realize he wasn't planning to leave anytime soon. I've asked him several times over the past few months to find his own place and move out. But each time, he comes up with some excuse to stay longer. Sometimes it's about money. Other times it's about not being ready yet or not having anywhere else to go. It feels like he's just avoiding leaving, and it's starting to wear on me. Before my brother moved in with us, he and my wife were never really close. In fact, they hardly ever talked, maybe just a few times here and there over the years. My wife had been honest with me about how she sees him. She said that while my brother's very attractive, he's also the complete opposite of trustworthy. She called him the epitome of a playboy, and honestly, that description fits him well. Back when my brother wasn't married yet and before he met his ex-wife, he was with a different girl almost every day. He would spend a lot of money on parties, going out with these girls or trying to impress them. My wife would often tell me how disgusting she found his behavior. She couldn't understand how someone could live that way, always chasing after one girl after another without thinking about anyone's feelings. So from the start, she didn't have a high opinion of him because of the way he acted in the past. On the other hand, my brother never really liked my wife either. From his point of view, he thought she was too controlling and that she had changed me in ways he didn't approve of. He often used the phrase "old ball and chains" when talking about her, which was his way of saying she held me back or limited my freedom. He believed that after I met her, I wasn't the same person anymore. In fact, he didn't even want me to marry her in the first place. He thought that getting married to her would tie me down and make my life less fun. Because of this, there was always some tension between my brother and my wife, even before he moved in with us. When my brother first moved in, I was really worried about how he and my wife would get along. I knew they didn't like each other much before, so I wasn't sure if living under the same roof would make things worse. And at first it did. My wife would often come to me with complaints about my brother. Since he didn't have a job at the time, he was home almost all day. Instead of looking for work or helping around the house, he would spend most of his time playing video games or listening to music really loudly. And this made it hard for my wife to relax or enjoy the quiet in the house. On top of that, he wasn't very tidy. He wouldn't clean up after himself at all. Dirty dishes were left in the sink, and his laundry piled up on the floor. Instead of taking care of these things himself, he expected my wife to do them for him. It felt like she was being taken for granted, and that only made the tension between them worse. I tried to support both of them, but it was a tough situation to handle. This is exactly why, after hearing my wife's constant complaints, I really wanted my brother to move out as soon as possible. But since it was clear he wasn't going to leave anytime soon, I decided to take a different approach. I asked him to at least step up and start listening to my wife. After all, he was living in our house as a guest, and that meant he needed to follow some basic rules and respect her. My brother wasn't happy about having to do this, but he didn't really have a choice. I also encouraged him to try and build a better relationship with my wife to get on her good side and be someone she could tolerate at the very least. I made it very clear to him that he couldn't stay here forever if my wife didn't like him or wasn't comfortable with him living here. I think that's the main reason he started trying to bond with her and make an effort. Honestly, I pushed them both together, hoping they would get along better, but now I really regret it. Slowly but surely, things between my brother and my wife began to improve. Over time, they started to lighten up around each other and even spent some time together. My brother showed her how to play some of his video games. She would join him for a game or two. It was surprising to see her get interested in something he loved, and they actually had fun playing together. She also started taking him along on her daily runs. At first, I didn't expect her to want company, but she seemed to enjoy having him with her while she exercised. Even when she went out to do grocery shopping, she would invite him to come along. It became clear that their relationship was slowly becoming more friendly. Sometimes when I came back home from work, I would find my wife and my brother sitting together sharing a glass of wine and chatting like old friends. It was strange at first, but I could see they were genuinely getting along better than I expected. At first, it was actually nice and a little cute to see my wife and brother getting along so well. It felt like they were finally breaking the ice and becoming friends. But as time went on, things started to feel a little strange. My brother began to know more about my wife's daily routines and schedules than I did, which caught me off guard. It felt like they had developed a bond that was deeper than I expected. I also noticed that my wife started cooking only the foods my brother liked. She didn't seem to care much about what I preferred anymore, which made me feel left out at the dinner table. It was like my brother had become her priority when it came to meals. Even more upsetting, the two of them began going out to eat or watch movies together, just the two of them, and they would use my credit card to pay for everything. On top of that, my wife started buying my brother expensive clothes and gifts, again charging everything to my card, without even talking to me about it. It was starting to feel like they were acting like a team and leaving me on the sidelines, and that made me uncomfortable. Things finally came to a head one weekend when I woke up and couldn't find either my wife or my brother anywhere in the house. I was a little confused, so I called my wife to ask where they were. She told me they were on their way to the beach together. Hearing that shocked me. This wasn't just any beach. It was a long drive away. My wife and I had actually been planning to go there together for some time. I asked her why she didn't wake me up to let me know so that I could come along with them. Her answer only made me more upset. She said that she and my brother thought I would probably want to relax at home that weekend and didn't want to disturb me. I found this excuse really frustrating and hard to accept. Why would my wife choose to go to the beach with my brother and leave me behind? It felt wrong and uncomfortable. I didn't understand why she would even want to spend that kind of time alone with him. Later that evening, when my wife finally came back home, she seemed really drunk. It didn't take long for me to figure out that they both had an amazing time at the beach. And it was all paid for using my money. My brother even kept telling me how enjoyable the whole day was, as if it was some kind of special treat just for them. Honestly, it felt like they had gone on a date together, using my car and my credit card to fund it all. That's when I knew I had to put my foot down. I took my credit card back from my wife and told her that from now on, I would give her a fixed amount of money to spend on herself, and that I would take care of buying the groceries myself, so she didn't need the card anymore. If she needed the card for any expenditures, she needed to talk to me first. I wanted to make sure she couldn't use my money behind my back anymore. As for my brother, I was very firm with him. I reminded him clearly that he needed to find a job and move out as soon as possible because I wasn't comfortable with him living in my house anymore. I made it clear that this was not a request, but something he had to do immediately. And that's when my wife and my brother both started arguing with me. They said it was unfair for me to just take away the credit card and tell my brother to leave so suddenly. My brother said he still needed more time to get things together, and my wife accused me of being jealous and petty. She thought I was overreacting and that I was making a big deal out of nothing. I told them both they could say whatever they wanted, but my mind was made up. I wasn't going to change my decision. I gave my brother exactly 1 week to pack up and move out because I was done being his cash cow. I made it clear that enough was enough. I wasn't going to let this situation continue any longer. Throughout that week, my brother did everything he could to change my mind. He tried asking for more time, promising to find a job soon. He even got my parents involved, hoping they would convince me to let him stay a little longer. But honestly, None of that mattered to me. I had made up my mind and I was determined to have him out of the house one way or another. The day my brother finally moved out, I was stuck at the office late into the evening. When I got back home, my brother was gone and I found my wife sitting alone, crying quietly while sipping her wine. I could tell something was wrong, so I gently asked her if anything had happened. That's when she broke down and started telling me how horrible she thought I was for kicking my brother out. She said he was such a huge support in her life and that she didn't understand why I was being so harsh. I pointed out to my wife that my brother staying with us was only supposed to be temporary from the start. It was always the plan that he would move out after a few months. I reminded her that he's an adult and should be able to handle things on his own, so I didn't understand why she was so upset about him leaving. Then I asked her directly if there was something going on between her and my brother. I said that this was the only explanation I could think of for why she was acting so emotional and upset about him moving out. When she heard that, she completely lost her temper. She screamed at me, saying how disgusting it was for me to even suggest something like that. She told me my mind was stuck in the gutter and that I should not even dare to think such horrible things about her. Then just 2 weeks later, something completely unexpected happened. I came home from work and was surprised to see that my wife had cooked dinner for me. Caught me off guard because ever since my brother moved out, she had been a complete mess, quiet, distant, and barely speaking to me. But today she looked different. She seemed cheerful, almost excited like her old self again. She asked me how my day had been and genuinely seemed interested in talking. For the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe things were finally settling down, like we were starting to reconnect and return to some kind of normal. I let myself relax during our dinner, thinking the worst was behind us and we could finally go back to how things were before my brother moved in. But then, out of nowhere, she dropped a bombshell. She told me she was pregnant. Yes, pregnant. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I just stared at her for a few moments, completely stunned, trying to process what she had just said. My mind was spinning. She sat there smiling, looking genuinely happy and emotional, and started talking about how thrilled she was to be having our child. She said she was excited about becoming a mother and how it felt like a new beginning for us. But while she was speaking, all I could think about was the truth, something she didn't know. I had a vasectomy years ago, long before I even met her. There was no chance, absolutely none, that I could get anyone pregnant. So I already knew without any doubt that this child wasn't mine. Still, I didn't say anything in that moment. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse her. Instead, I kept calm and played along. I asked her how far along she was, trying to keep my voice steady even though my heart was pounding in my chest. I needed to hear what she would say next before deciding what to do. She told me that she had actually found out she was pregnant last month, but had kept it a secret from me. When I asked her why she didn't tell me earlier, she said she needed time to process it on her own and figure out how she felt about it. She admitted that she was overwhelmed at first, but now she was sure she wanted to keep the baby. I reminded her as calmly as I could that I've been very clear from the beginning. I have never wanted to become a father. That was something we had always agreed on. It wasn't just a casual preference. It was a decision we had both made and stuck to all these years. But she looked at me and said, "Well, plans change. I'm pregnant and you need to be on board with this, whether you like it or not." As if that was all there was to it. I was completely taken aback. The way she spoke about it like it was no big deal made me feel even more unsettled. It was as if my feelings, my choices, and the life we had agreed on didn't matter anymore. I am at a loss for words. Aita for not claiming this child because I'm pretty sure it's not even mine. Update 1. Thank you to everyone who has pointed out that in some rare cases people can still get pregnant even after a vasectomy. I appreciate the information and the different perspectives. In my case, I am 100% sure that's not the case. For those who have asked why I never told my wife about my vasectomy, it's because this is something very personal to me. I didn't intentionally hide it or leave it out. Having a vasectomy was a decision I made long before I met my wife. It was the right choice for me because I've never wanted to become a father. I wanted to be able to be intimate with my partners without ever worrying about causing a pregnancy. It was about making sure I could be safe without unexpected consequences. I hope that helps clarify why I didn't share this part of my past with her. Also, to those of you who keep asking how I couldn't suspect that my brother and my wife were having an affair, I want to say this. My life isn't a Hollywood movie. I did notice their behavior was a little strange and unusual, but I never saw any real proof that something was going on between them. I mean, family members can be close, right? Siblings and in-laws sometimes spend time together and get along well, but close enough to actually have an affair, that never even crossed my mind. I just didn't think it was possible. So I didn't suspect it. How foolish of me. Please stop blaming me for letting my brother move in. Honestly, I didn't want to let him move in when he first asked. I knew he had made some bad decisions, especially with the cheating and everything else. And I was worried that having him stay with us would cause problems, but he begged me, saying he had nowhere else to go. My parents and I also felt a bit sorry for him. After all, his ex-wife kicked him out during their divorce and he was completely alone. We thought that maybe giving him a temporary place to stay would help him get back on his feet. At the time, I believed it would only be for a short while. I thought he would find a job quickly and move out soon. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. It didn't take long before his staying with us started to create tension and problems that I wasn't prepared to handle. Looking back, I wish I had been firmer from the start, but I was trying to help my family in a difficult situation. Update 2. It's been quite some time since I last updated. Over the past few months, my wife hasn't stopped talking about how happy she is to be pregnant. She talks about it all the time, how excited she is to meet our child, and how much she's looking forward to becoming a mother. Some of you suggested I should check her phone to see if there was anything going on behind my back. I didn't want to invade her privacy, and honestly, I was scared to find out the truth. But I realized I needed solid proof before I could make any decisions about separating from her. Since she was pregnant, I knew she could easily tell people whatever story she wanted and try to make herself look innocent. I needed proof, something real and undeniable. So I went through her phone, and what I found shocked me so much. It almost made me want to burn my eyes. There were multiple intimate pictures of her and my brother. Pictures that clearly showed they were more than just close relatives or friends. Seeing those photos was like a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe what I was holding in my hands. It hurt more than I expected, and it made everything so much clearer. What hurts most is knowing that my brother and my wife slept together more than once, and sometimes it even happened right in my own bedroom. They would have secret little jokes and conversations between themselves, even when I was home. When I found out about those messages and the way they talked, I felt like a complete outsider in my own house. It was painful to realize they had this hidden world that didn't include me at all. Now I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that my wife is pregnant because of my brother. That's why everything feels wrong and confusing. Even though she still talks to my brother, he doesn't seem to want much to do with her anymore. From what I've learned, my brother has started dating someone new. He hardly responds to my wife's texts or tries to keep in touch. What makes it even harder is that my wife hasn't told him about the pregnancy. I think she knows deep down that my brother won't be ready to take care of her or the baby. She seems to be counting on me to be the one who supports them, even though this whole situation is her fault. It feels like she's planning to make me raise a child that isn't mine, all the while pretending that she never betrayed me by sleeping with my brother. However, I won't let that happen. I plan to see a lawyer very soon to understand what my options are. My wife and I never signed a prenup when we got married, and I have a lot of assets that I need to figure out how to protect before I can leave her. I don't want to give my cheating wife any more money or resources than she already has taken. Honestly, she and that kid belong on the streets with my loser brother and not under my roof or my name. I'm done being a fool. I'll fight tooth and nail to make sure I don't give a single penny to that cheating, lying snake. Update 3. It's been a while since I last updated. I finally decided to leave my wife, but I waited for the right moment to do it. I wanted to make sure everything was planned carefully before taking such a big step. Her due date is just around the corner. My wife went to visit her parents for a few days. While she was there, I packed up all her things into boxes. Early in the morning, I took all the boxes and left them on her parents' porch. On top of the boxes, I placed a folder with important documents inside. In the folder, I included the divorce papers, the medical documents proving that I had a vasectomy years ago, something she never knew about, and printed conversations between her and my brother that showed her that I knew what she had done. I didn't write any further explanations or notes to her, just those papers. Just about an hour after I got back home, my wife and her parents must have found the boxes because they started calling me nonstop. My wife kept sending me message after message saying I had no right to suddenly throw her out without any explanation, especially at such a vulnerable time in her life, right before the baby was due. She claims those text messages between her and my brother don't prove anything and that they were just casually having some fun. She keeps telling me that despite my vasectomy, the child she carries is definitely mine. Her father's also reached out to me, and he told me that even though he didn't know about the cheating before, he still believes I should not be divorcing her. He says my wife and her child are still my responsibility, and went on to say that as a man, I needed to step up and take care of them. I told my father-in-law firmly and clearly that while I understand he feels protective of his daughter, I will not accept responsibility for someone who has betrayed me and disrespected our marriage. No man should be liable to take care of another man's child. I told him he needed to have a good long talk with his adult daughter about her cheating habits, instead of trying to make me take responsibility. I have also told my wife very clearly that she is not to contact me anymore. From now on, all communication between us will happen only through our lawyers. I have made it clear any attempt to reach me directly will be ignored. This is the only way to keep things calm and professional as we move forward. Update 4. This week I also exposed my wife's affair with my brother to my parents. I gathered all the text messages between my wife and my brother, the messages that showed they had been having an affair behind my back, and sent those messages to my parents to make sure they knew the full truth. I also told them my wife is currently pregnant with my brother's child. My parents were completely disgusted by the news. They couldn't believe their own son could do something so terrible. My brother was yelled at harshly by both of them. My mother was so hurt and angry that she said she never wants to see his face again for as long as she lives. She said she could never forgive him for what he did to his own brother. Since then, my brother has tried to contact me, trying to avoid responsibility and pass the blame. He claims he feels guilty about everything, but that he